From his impressive history of wins and knockouts to showing some seriously fast progress since he first started training, here's the real reason fighters are terrified of KSI. Let's start by taking a little trip down memory lane. Most of you know KSI as the YouTube sensation, but this guy has quickly become so much more. He's transformed himself into a legit boxing superstar. It all started back in 2018 when KSI, driven by his passion for the sport, stepped into the ring for the very first time, squaring up against a fellow YouTuber, Joe Weller. Talk about a jaw-dropping debut. KSI shocked the world with his raw talent and intense work ethic. He knocked Weller down in the third round, proving that he was, in fact, a force to be reckoned with. But that was just the beginning of his journey. The Battle of the Giants was on the horizon. KSI took on none other than Logan Paul, another YouTube heavyweight, in an epic showdown. The world watched with bated breath as these two warriors faced off in Manchester, England. The fight ended in a draw, leaving fans hungry for more, and boy did they get more. A rematch was scheduled, and this time it was personal. The Staples Center in Los Angeles set the stage for an unforgettable clash. KSI and Logan Paul left it all in the ring, trading blows like there was no tomorrow. But in the end, it was KSI who emerged victorious, securing a stunning split decision win and solidifying his status as a boxing phenomenon. So where does the legend stand now? He's fought a total of 6 times in his career so far, and has a pretty great record considering he's currently undefeated in all his fights. So that's 5 wins, 1 draw, and 0 losses. In all 6 of his fights, he's managed to secure 3 knockouts, which means that he has a 75% TKO percentage, which is honestly pretty freaking great. Definitely something to be proud of, especially considering the fact that the man knew nothing about the combat sport when he started. As for his opponents, they varied from YouTubers to influencers to pro boxers. He's managed to beat them all. Apart from Weller and Logan Paul, KSI has faced off against Swarms, Luis Pineda, and FaZe Temper. That brings me to his most recent match. I'm talking about his showdown against Joe Fournier. The event was Misfits Boxing 7, being held at OVO Arena, Wembley in London, and the PBA was overseeing the event. This was KSI's second major fight in 2023, the first one being against fellow YouTuber FaZe in January. When he faced Fournier in the ring, he had his opponent wobbling in just the second round after hitting him with a pretty hard overhand right. At the time, the victory went to KSI, but a replay found that the blow that ended the fight actually came from KSI's elbow. Fournier obviously lodged an appeal with the BPA, and in response, the governing body overturned the result of the fight to a no decision. According to a statement by the BPA, even though KSI was winning the fight, the blow with the forearm was found to be accidental. They added that the contest was being declared a no decision in accordance with the rules. Disappointed to have the latest notch on his belt taken away, KSI took to Twitter to express his resentment. He wrote that he had worked very hard for the fight and had to go through a pretty intense camp to prepare. At the same time, though, he acknowledged that the elbow strike had tarnished his win. He was obviously gutted at having it taken away from him, but blamed himself entirely for not being able to get a clean victory. Fournier, on the other hand, was expecting the result to be overturned to a disqualification win for him, because according to him, KSI landed the elbow strike on purpose, which was soon dismissed as a ludicrous claim by the fighter. Now, instead of going for a rematch, KSI said he wanted to move on to pursue another fight, this time with Tommy Fury, and then Jake Paul himself. Now, we're getting to the juicy bit. So is KSI versus Jake Paul finally happening? Especially since KSI's bout with FaZe Temper, fans have been dying to see the British YouTuber square up against yet another rival. And who could be a better choice than his arch-nemesis Jake Paul? For over 5 years, the pair have been going back and forth, throwing the nastiest shade at each other. Now, it seems like an end may finally be in sight. Maybe once the two touch gloves and fight it out, things will settle down. or get worse. Honestly, it could go either way. In an interview with Sport Bible, KSI stated that he was expecting to step into the ring with the younger Paul brother sometime in December 2023, but that he was looking for at least one more fight before that clash. Basically, KSI just wants to make Misfits bigger and better than the WWE, as big if not bigger than the UFC. So that's one of his goals. The other, of course, is flatlining Jake Paul. A date for the Ultimate Clash isn't set in stone just yet, but according to sources, the two have agreed upon weight, as well as having the winner of the fight land all of the fight purse. How's that for hyping it up? But like I said, KSI wants another opponent before he can get to Jake Paul, and that might actually be a little tough, considering how nobody seems to want to go up against him. Of course, a lot of that has to do with many in the game being scared to lose against the man, but there are also many who can't seem to take a YouTuber seriously as a boxer. With the recent boom in celebrity boxing matchups, the whole thing has started to turn into a kind of joke for lots of people. They look at these YouTubers entering the boxing ring as an extension of their YouTube personas, and find it hard to take them seriously. They look at boxers like KSI, Logan Paul, and Jake Paul and see them pulling in millions, even though they just started getting into the sport, and think that they're detracting from the legitimacy of the sport with all their cheap drama for hype. And yeah, sure, the whole thing may be turning into more of a business at this point than a sport, but that doesn't take away from the fact that these guys are good. Take a look at KSI's record in the boxing ring, for instance. He hasn't lost a single match out of all the fights he's been in so far. There are a bunch of reasons behind that. He's got some great cardio, and he's got some pretty impressive knockout skills going for him as well. Let's go back to his fights against Swarms and Pineda. He won against both opponents by knockout. Most importantly though, he's been training professionally for a couple of years now. You don't just wake up one day with a skill set like this, you've got to work hard for it. And it's clear that KSI really has. But all this doesn't mean that he's the best boxer out there. He does have his weak points in the boxing ring. One of the major things standing in his way of becoming a truly great boxer is his IQ in fights. Let me explain. Boxing depends a lot on using the right techniques against your opponents, and knowing when to use them. Unfortunately for KSI, that's exactly where he fails most of the time. When I think of a great boxer, I think of someone like Floyd Mayweather, who has one of the best fighting IQs ever. If KSI wants to be anywhere near as good as him, he's going to need to keep working on his game for a while. Yet another thing that KSI needs to work on is his weak defense. He's actually gotten a lot of criticism for that since he entered the professional boxing arena. That and his footwork. Any boxing fan can tell that his footwork is pretty sloppy. A good boxer needs to be quick and fluid on their feet. Unfortunately for KSI, he hasn't spent enough time during his training honing these skills, and that's precisely what's holding him back. With all that being said, can you really call KSI a good boxer? Well, I fully believe that he can easily beat an untrained opponent, one who hasn't fought a lot of professional matches in their lifetime. He's shown quite a bit of skill while winning with some strong punches. I'll give him that, and he's improved a lot since he started a few years ago, but he's still far from a great boxer. To achieve that level of greatness, all things considered, he's got a bright future in the sport if he keeps training and working on learning from the best. So, from showing some seriously fast progress since he first started training to his impressive history of wins and knockouts, those were the real reasons fighters are terrified of KSI.